Hail cheaters. Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
Josh, I'm good. I'm golden. I'm ready for game week 1. We've done so much preseason content, and now we have to really start making decisions. It's all well and good to say, this player looks good, that player looks good. Who's actually going to go in our teams? And we'll get close to deciding that today, right?
I think so. I think, the goal for me, and I think with the podcast itself, but then even with my sort of own preparation throughout the summer, going into the end of summer, early fall, it's like I just want to cast a very wide net, learn as much as I can about what's changed over the summer, new players, who's doing what in the preseason, who might come in, who might leave, stuff like that. And then it's like narrow that focus more and more and more, right? And get down to a pool of, okay, I might consider these. The pool size varies, right? I might consider these 5 to 7 forwards. I might consider these 10 to 12 midfielders. I actually think weirdly with defenders, I feel almost settled. I have like maybe between 5 and 7 that I'm really considering. I think other than that, I'm pretty locked in. So that's the goal for this pod. We're going to, in just like 5 minutes here, we're going to reveal our game week 1 teams. They may change. They likely will change, but this is where we are as of Sunday. We have lots of unanswered questions still, but we did want to give people an update as to where we are with our squads as of right this very moment. And so you actually, we get 2 for the price of 1 with Brandon, because you've got 2 different options that you're sharing here. I have a version as well, but I'm in a 4-4-2, which is kind of not what I was expecting, but I do like it. So let's see if I stick with it. But I did first just want to talk a little bit about the Community Shield that took place this morning. It was not bad, I would say, by Community Shield standards. I felt like the first half you had a little bit of drama. Both teams had some chances. Arsenal, I thought they were outplayed a lot in the first half, but they arguably had the 2 best chances, and sort of classic. My note here just says Havertz, and just the Kai Havertz plays well. And then it's like, it's just, it's sort of unfortunate that he wasn't really brought in to be a forward, right? But because of what happened to Gabriel Jesus, he's been thrust into this forward role.
Same thing that happened at Chelsea, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the first kind of significantly high profile match he plays, we get to see Havertz as forward, which means we get to see him multiple times do things very well and then not be able to score, really. I mean, it's sort of, you can say it's unlucky, but it's a pattern that has continued for years and years now. And so you do, it's hard to do, of course, right? I mean, if everyone could do what Erling Haaland does, then we'd have more people who could score 30 or 40 goals in a season. It is very hard to take a ball in the turn and get it past the keeper, right?
Well, I mean, you could argue, if you want to compare him to Haaland, Havertz at least had shots on target. He touched the ball many more times than Erling Haaland did.
Yeah. You're dropping Haaland, you think? He's out.
Well, let's talk about that. No, I will not be dropping Haaland. But I thought that the Community Shield was interesting, mostly from an Arsenal point of view. You know, there was a point like midway through the second half where Footmob had Arsenal at 15% possession, but what they were still doing was they were pressing really well, and I thought they were limiting City's chances, as we saw with just the comments on Haaland. I'm not sure that Havertz was as willing a presser as the rest of the team. Obviously, you lose a lot of energy when Gabriel Jesus drops out of the squad, and but I've got to compare Havertz to that, and I thought he was a little lax in how much pressure he was putting on. Do you get something a little different if you bring Trossard in and maybe, I don't know, do something different in the 9 spot? But overall, I thought Arsenal fans should be encouraged, as Julian Timber was maybe the best player on the pitch during that match. Odegaard was doing his thing. I mean, he didn't have as much space to work in as he will against many other Premier League opponents.
This is always the dilemma. I think maybe evaluating both squads, really, but certainly Arsenal, that they're just not going to play teams like Man City. Well, right. I mean, only twice a year are they going to play a team as good as Man City. And I don't know that was kind of Odegaard's like a great spot for him. I thought he was pretty quiet, at least I thought in the first half. And yeah, it's, I mean, and of course you can't read too much into these matches anyway, right? I mean, Man City play Burnley on Friday, and Arsenal play, I should know this, but I'm just forgetting right now. Arsenal play Forest at home on Saturday. So clearly those are horses of another color. And so I'm not certainly not basing my team decisions too much on what I saw today. But I think seeing Alvarez play today, seen Foden benched again, which it's not that Foden won't get they'll both get their minutes, but like just Foden felt he's now on the wrong side of the trust list. The Josh Landon, do I trust this person enough to have my fantasy team? He's officially fallen off it again. Do you feel the same way about Foden? I mean, he did finish 10th in our defender ratings or in our midfield ratings, but just feels too risky now.
Foden did come on and change the game. He had a great opportunity to score from an Alvarez pass, and he created he created the pass that created Kevin De Bruyne's assist to Cole Palmer for the goal. Foden had an incredible performance coming off the bench. And that is what, to me, is so vexing about Foden is just not knowing what is going on the training pitch and off the field that Pep is aware of, that we're not. Because every time he's on the pitch, I'm just like constantly impressed by Phil Foden. But I did want to finish for all the Arsenal fans listening, the arc of Arsenal in this match, coming off of that 15% possession at some point in the first half, they did wrestle control of the game and controlled large parts. It was just cool to see how evenly matched they were at moment to moment in the game. Foden, no, we need to see. Well, we'll never see what this City lineup looks like, because this City lineup, I think, is going to change over and over and over again. John Stones, kind of alarming, I think, for people used to seeing him in that inverted fullback position, pressing farther up the field, was playing just straight up center back. I thought
he was like all over the place though too. There's also times when you see Stones, you're like, oh wow, Stones is just like further forward than Alvarez right now.
But that'll change. Like with Guardiola coming in, he'll presumably replace Akanji in what we saw today. But the squad is just so insanely versatile that there are no learnings about who's going to get more minutes and over another player now.
Well, I mean, so what do you think about Alvarez? Alvarez does play. I was hoping I don't know where this hope came from, because he hasn't really played. He's honestly played more as a KDB replacement over the years when he started than as a right wing, coming off the right, which is where I, from a selfish fantasy perspective, would like to see him play, because I just think it's a more stable position that he could kind of earn for his own, right? That position is very much up for grabs right now, right? Could be Alvarez, could be Foden, could be Bernardo Silva, could in theory be Matoma, who is now being rumored, even though he plays on the left side. Apparently, Pep, I mean, it doesn't really matter as much with Pep. So that is, but he played in this KDB role. Of course, KDB was on the bench. KDB came off the bench and got an assist in today's match. My feeling was, if I saw Alvarez start in the Community Shield, I was going to bring him into my squad, because at 6.5 million, it's a fun value punt. It may just be a short-term move. I'm not sure that he sticks around forever. But I think you and I mean, I guess I'll just give it away here, but I mean, you and I both have him in our squad right now. So tell me what you think about Alvarez, why he's in your squad. If he got moved in today, as a result of him starting or watching him play, what do you think about him at the moment?
I think at 6.5, it's incredible value for how many points I expect him to score. The hard thing in FPL with Alvarez is going to be, can you have him in your starting 11 or have him come off the bench for your fantasy team when he does actually score those points in real life? That's the harder thing. But I had him in my drafts prior to the Community Shield. Because of that 6.5 price tag, there are no other forwards, though the João Pedro case is being mounted now that João Pedro seems to be number one penalty taker for Brighton. He's wearing the number 9 shirt. seems like he could be favored over the other starting number 9s at Brighton, or he started with Welbeck today. So they all start, Josh.
Yep.
But they're like, what else am I going to do with that money that I'm spending on Alvarez? I'm either going to get João Pedro or I'm going to get a 4.5 non-playing forward. So it just feels more sensible to me to have that 6.5 forward. The other thing with Alvarez is there are no other Man City players at this moment that I want in my team. We made the case against Foden. Grealish, just has not proven to be a consistent fantasy asset. There's really nobody else, and the defense isn't super appealing over the last few seasons. So I've got space for another City player. Why not him?
Yeah, and our thanks again, by the way, to our friend Steve, aka 11ify, for coming on our midweek pod. It was a great pod. We had a lot of great feedback from it. It's really good. I thought very clean guide. It was interesting. I found out during the pod that he works in the legal profession in some capacity, and I was like, right, that makes sense. Because I felt like what he was doing in that pod was making things extremely clear. Mm-hmm. Like there was just a lot of stuff that he talked about in the pod that sort of clarified to me. This is how you use X minutes. Here's how you turn the levers on some of this data in order to make it make sense to you. Here's or sort of to factor in your own impressions and things like that. Here's how you use data not to replace your thinking, but to just sort of supplement it, or just do it because it's fun and interesting to dig through this stuff. But anyway, he was making a case for Grealish on the pod, and you can see why to a degree, because he's one of the most assured starters in the team. He is involved in things all the time, but then it's like he just doesn't quite score or assist enough to
this is the case we're making for Kovacic and Declan Rice. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, it sort of feels like you're getting it's like a central midfielder who tempts you because they're playing as a left wing, but it's just, I don't know, maybe again because Haaland is the goal Roomba, right, who just vacuums up all the goals. But all right, so let's get into our team reveals though, Brandon. Let's quit beating around the bush here. Tell me about these two squads that you've copy and pasted into our running notes here.
Sure. I've got A squad and B squad, and the major difference is Mo Salah or no Mo Salah. And the draft that currently resides as my bust team in the fantasy game is the non-Salah squad. Because, I mean, I actually like the Salah squad that I've put together, but the compromises that have been made, they're largely visible on my bench. And I think the last 3 seasons that have been mildly touched by, the last season mildly touched by postponements, and the previous 2 with COVID. I'm like very sensitive about how my bench looks. Now, I wouldn't make the case that you've got to have a bench full of strong starting players. You've got to just find the cheapest possible guys who this is where I really warm up to Steve 11ify's X minutes theory, because if you've got guys on your bench who are getting minutes, like that's a big part of the job. Yep. So in the Salah draft, I've got Chukwuemeka, and he's the Chelsea midfielder. He's 4.5. Sure. So the fact that they're going through a little bit of an early season injury crisis with Nkunku being out is he might be tapped for some minutes, but it's not a guy that's probably going to hold that role for very long, and it's not going to be super useful in fantasy. And then on my A squad, I at least have a potential goal scorer in Andreas Pereira at 5.5. 5.5 feels actually kind of luxurious for a bench attacker. So that could be augmented just maybe so I have 0.5 in the bank. But all right, I'll take you through A squad, and then just a quick what are the differences with the Salah squad. Yeah.
So I like though that you started with your second and third bench spots to really to whet everybody's appetite. It really is an exciting way to
get right to the good stuff. So Onana in goal, I don't know. I keep getting these visions in my head of who's going to finish second, third, fourth in the league. Is it Liverpool? Is it Arsenal? Is it Manchester United? My enthusiasm for this Manchester United squad is starting to like build and build. Onana did get chipped pretty astoundingly this weekend. I can't remember who they were playing. It doesn't matter. But he came out. He came out in the mix zone afterward and was just saying like, "Hey, I'm the big man in the back. I'm going to be criticized, and I can take it. Like, what's the big? Not what's the big deal, but like, I know what I'm doing, and I'm a confident player. I just loved his attitude. And I do not have Luke Shaw in either of my drafts. I just do think that Manchester United, they'll be probably playing a little bit more buccaneering and high pressing with some of these new signings by Ten Hag, but I just still feel like I like them as a defensive team. Mm-hmm. Trent doesn't make either of these lineups. I thought you and Steve last week had a great discussion on Trent's lack of value. I would love to have Trent in any of my squads. It's just not working at 8 million. So here's Virgil van Dijk. Next to him is Saliba. Saliba was, I thought, sensational against Manchester City. Kovacic, who I thought looked really good in his new role at City, had this driving run into the box. He blew past a couple of Arsenal players, and Saliba just gracefully ushered the ball out across the byline. He looks great. I think he's decent for bonus point value. So
you got a soft spot for him too.
Yes. Yeah. Estupiñán and Pau Torres at Aston Villa rounded out with Issa Kabore, who is the City transfer to Luton Town. Across the midfield, Mitoma, Saka, Rashford, and Odegaard. Again, this is the no solid draft, and we already revealed who's on the bench. Andreas Pereira. Saka just looks like a must-have. He had Akanji on toast a few times today at Wembley. Yeah, Mitoma, it's kind of like if he goes to Man City, he becomes just like this huge fat rotation risk, and I'm less enthusiastic, but I have no idea like how the veracity of
exactly. It's hard to say. Yeah.
Odegaard is, I think, another player who I just have an affinity for. We talked about in our midfielder preview how Odegaard outperformed his numbers last season. So what am I doing here? But maybe this is an X minutes sort of a pick. I think he's kind of like a better Grealish from a fantasy point of view, where he plays more centrally than Grealish, but he is like engaged in all of the attacking activity.
Yeah, I mean, he shoots. He's on some free kicks, and I could talk about Odegaard a little bit as well. But I mean, part of it for me, honestly, is he may not be a lock forever, but they play Forest at home in game week 1. Like loading up with 3 Arsenal players feels like a pretty reasonable way to play it.
Yeah. And across the front here, I've got Julian Alvarez, Ollie Watkins, and Haaland. I'm just a Watkins lover. I think as we go into the season, it's always tough because there are a lot of good picks. Who's going to be your pick for game week 1? I feel like Watkins, he just feels like he has the highest assured ceiling among the sub like Kane, Haaland options. I just feel kind of safe with him there. And I do think that he's insanely trusted by Emery. He's on pens, even though he did miss one in the past week. And also in terms of this non-solid draft, this is what has afforded me to get Watkins up front. It gives me a lot of more flexibility in terms of spreading my cash around the pitch. So at 8 million, Watkins can easily become whoever takes off, whether it's Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea, whether it's João Pedro, who becomes the real deal. Who knows? Maybe it's Dominic Solanke. Who am I to say? And that's the change. Like in the solid draft, I've given up on Watkins in favor of João Pedro. Salah comes in for Odegaard, And what other big change did I have to make? Oh, and Rashford becomes Bruno Fernandes, and Andreas Pereira becomes Chuameka. So it's not like drastically different. It's just there's some level of flexibility here in the non-solid draft that's appealing to me.
I thought your solid draft would be worse than this. It actually isn't bad. It's better than I would have expected. I don't think you really need a 5 million like Andreas, for example, on your bench, unless you really see a moment where you might rotate early on, with one of these players. So I think, I almost feel like in that case, I'd rather just have a 4.5 and then just have that million available, right? So that you could upgrade to a different option if you wanted to.
Well, you tell me about Salah and Liverpool, because looking at your draft, your game week 1 squad, you have
no
Liverpool.
Yeah, I just don't like the prices, and I think it's not that Trent's price is bad. It's just, it's a fair price for what he's done. It's just that it's really bad compared to every other option that you might consider, right? It's everyone else that is kind of in the range of consideration is 2.5 million cheaper or less, or 3 million in the case of someone like a Stupinan, right? And so when you look at it through that lens, you're like, God, is there just not enough value here for me to take him? And that's sort of, I think, where I am right now with him. Is I just wonder if I'd rather just spread the money around a little bit. Like I put together this team that I kind of like right now, and I think even this team, I still have $1 million in the bank. This 4-4-2. So I'll run through that right now. I've got Pickford as my keeper, and I actually can't have him right now because I have it says I have 3 Arsenal players, and Matt Turner's move to Forest hasn't been made official yet. But I'm going to make Turner my other keeper, and I was going back and forth between Onana and Pickford over the last, I don't know, whatever, week or two since you and I did our goalkeeper pod, and I guess that was a week ago, and I think that the Turner move makes it easier in some ways because he basically fills every fixture hole for Pickford in a way that really, it's like, not only is he 0.5 million cheaper, but he also just solves all, like, there's just a couple of the kind of tougher fixtures up ahead for Everton are the ones where Forest have really strong home fixtures. I think in one case they play Burnley at home, and the other maybe it's Fulham at home or something like that. So I just sort of like, and I'm not even sure I necessarily will rotate, but I just like to be able to have that option, right? An 8.5 million, goalkeeper rotation is really appealing if you can swing it.
It's not even a rotation at that point. It's, if you're paying 4.0, it's, you just know you have a backup in case your starting keeper gets injured.
I think that, I guess that's what it is, and the occasional rotation is just like an added bonus, basically. To me, the Pickford, I think there's lots. I think John Stone, what is the name of? I keep forgetting the name of the Brentford keeper, which is kind of funny because he has an interesting name, but it's
Flecken.
Flecken, yeah. So you have Flecken as well. You have Flecken, you have Pickford, you have John Stone, you have others that I'm sure I'm forgetting right now, but. To me, the Pickford move is just it's a show of faith that Sean Dyche will figure out how to get the best out of his defense, because that's what he's done his entire career. And they had a full offseason to do it. Everton have played, I believe, 6 fixtures so far in the offseason. They've kept clean sheets in 4 of those 6 fixtures.
Did you see Tarkowski went off with a little knock today?
No, I did not see that. But
who knows how serious it is? Don't know how serious it is, but that's the house of cards there.
Thank you, Mr. Friendly. I think when you said you were looking for a new team name, Brandon, maybe Mr. Friendly is the team name you should go with. I like that, Mr. Friendly FC. So anyway, so I've got Pickford and then Turner, who that move is expected to. I think they've already agreed terms. I think that'll go through in the next couple of days. It'd be super annoying if that doesn't go through before game week 1 kicks off, though. And and then it looks like Raya is going to actually happen too. And I don't know what I mean. God, I thought there were a couple shaky moments today from our boy Ramsdale, but I don't know. He's just like he's a little loose with the ball. He's got a little of that Ederson thing where he wants to dribble a little bit. And you see that one where he kind of kicked into his own net and then just saved it just in time. I think that was in the first half. Anyway, that's not the point here, Brent. The point is me going through my defense.
Stop dragging Ramsdale through the mud, Josh.
Exactly. I've got Gabriel. I've got him over Saliba. That's just a goal threat pick there. I've got Chilwell, and that's a little bit of a gamble for me. It's I'm sort of seeing Chilwell as my Trent replacement. Some question marks about the defense, much like there are with Liverpool. But I think that both them should have the opportunity to get forward a lot.
Don't worry, Robert Sanchez is going to lock up that defense for Chelsea.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there, honestly. But he had a good he's had a good preseason, and I guess I just there's a part of me that just kind of wants to get in on this Chelsea team as well. I think there's something sort of fun about. I'm excited about the fresh start, Pochettino. There's a lot of talent in this squad. I think this squad, maybe yours would have as well, but I think I would have had Nkunku if he hadn't gotten injured this last week. I think that he'd be in my game week 1 squad, and it's a bummer that he's not. Nicholas Jackson, Alvarez could turn into Jackson maybe. I just feel like I'm not quite there yet in the sense that it feels like too much of a question mark for me to put into my game week 1 squad. Like, I just don't quite know. I don't know. Maybe if I was a Chelsea supporter, I'd feel more, but it's like new signing, did have some moments in the off season, but it's just like, do I just go right in with Jackson? I don't know. Right. It's
7.5 is too rich for that. Like, I think he looks great.
Yeah. He's 7 million, isn't he? Not that it really makes a big difference, but I think.
Okay, yeah, 7 million.
Yeah,
still, we're talking. Basically, what I'm telling you, Josh, is he's above 7. He's 7 million, greater than or equal to 7 million. I don't know, and that's kind of what I'm thinking again about Ollie Watkins. Is Nicholas Jackson could be somebody that just comes right flying out of the gates, and no, like Tammy Abraham is another Chelsea striker who comes to mind, where it wasn't that Tammy Abraham was a new transfer to Chelsea, but he was a youth product, an academy product, I believe, and finally got a start. And then he just started banging in the goals, and we're like, well, this is good value. Let's bring him into our fantasy squad. So it could be the same here.
Yeah, and even if it's a short-term thing, I mean, part of me is like, do I just have Alvarez? Oh, okay. Here's what I'll say though, because I think I mentioned that you and I both have Alvarez in our teams right now. I think there is an extremely good chance that there will be now, of course, you should not bank on this because the game is going to be doing a lot of uploads, a lot of people saving their teams, a lot of chaos on the server. But I think there's a chance that we will get a leak for what the Chelsea team, or excuse me, for the Man City team looks like on Friday going into the kickoff match, right? It's the first game of the game week. And I think that there's a chance we'll know what that lineup is. So if you get any kind of leak, it'll be a good opportunity. Have a backup in mind if Alvarez doesn't start, or if Alvarez does start and you were on the fence about it, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe have a draft with him in it as well.
So leave 0.5 in the bank to go up to Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, well, let me get there. So I've got Gabriel, Chilwell, Estupiñán. Estupiñán to me is the one mortal lock in this 11. Just at 5 million, he's terrific. They play Luton Town at home. Just easy pick. Luke Shaw is the other one, and Luke Shaw is kind of new to my team, and part of it is because I'm not going with a Liverpool player, it just gives me a lot more money to spread around my squad. And I like the Wolves fixture to kick things off. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I think this defense, they're pretty strong last year, and I think they're kind of only going to get better with Onana. And they play Wolves and Forest at home in 2 of their first 3. Spurs away in game week 2. I think that could be okay as well. The next, game weeks 4 and 5, it's Arsenal and Brighton, but I think that. I think you could argue that you can start someone like Shaw in any fixture. He's not like an immobile center back that you're just not going to get kind of anything from, right? Like I think even in a match where they lost, they conceded, you could still get attacked. I mean, this is kind of what he was known for last year, right? It's like he was sort of always in the bonus, and even in matches where they conceded, he was kind of right up there because he was just creating so many chances for Man United. All right, and then my midfield, I've got. Rashford, and I have two doubles here, Brandon. I've got Rashford and Bruno, and I've got Odegaard and Saka. Now, did I just not want to make a decision? I don't know, but I do like the idea of doubling up on those. I mean, it just seems kind of clean to me. And I think the one change I could see myself making would be to go in a 4-5-1. And if I did that, I would probably have either Matoma or Mbomo in the fifth midfield spot. And then I would have Haaland as my lone striker up front. I think that, I remember talking to a friend of mine, and everyone knows that you really can do basically, as long as you have at least one forward, you can have, you can really have, like, as long as you need to have at least one forward, but you can be in a 4-5-1, or you could be in a, I don't know, I guess like a 5-4-1 if you wanted to. So that is another option that I might consider, would be to just go that way. Because I do really love the pool of 6.5 million midfielders, right? I mean, there's so many to pick from. And it feels like this week we've seen kind of the rise of Eze as a possibility. But you have Eze, you've got Mbomo, who's on pens, that appears at least for Brentford. Obviously you have Matoma. And so I could see, it seems very appealing to me to sort of mix and match a little bit. And I just feel a little, I feel a little better about those 6.5 million midfielder options than I do kind of any of the forwards in that range, right? You brought up your boy Solanke, right? I know you're excited about him, Brandon, but I'm just not there yet with him. And so we'll see. And then
I did. We're just going back to the Rashford and Bruno Manchester mids. I did watch some of the Manchester United Lens match that was, I think it was Saturday. It doesn't matter. Mason Mount was actually really involved in the attack, much more so than Bruno Fernandes at times. So this is not a pick I'm ready to make.
About that. Yeah.
It's not a pick I'm ready to make, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah, Brendan, I may just have to go back to our actual midfield rankings and just go through there. Maybe Mount cracks the list. But for now, I like it. I think I'd say Saka and Odegaard are more of a lock than the Bruno Rashford duo. But I like the way this looks. I also like having this like nice swath of red throughout my actual team. It's very clean looking.
Yeah.
Right?
So people have their data and their models, and I'm getting into numerology this summer, as I've said a couple times before. For those of you who don't know, numerology is just looking for numbers in the world and seeing how numbers actually materially affect reality. And I put there, you can go online and find these free numerology calculators. You just pop in your name and your birthday, and you can get your numerology chart read. Come to find out, Saka and I actually share a birthday. That's a little insight into my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Saka's life path is actually rated by numerology as a 17-8. 17-8 means 1 + 7 = 8. And an 8, or the 17 significance in numerology, is this. 17 gives you an energy of celebrity and stardom. It gives the charisma to be on stage, shine like a star, and tap into the deep archetypal currents of art and beauty and communicate these aspects to humanity. So that's a little free plug for numerology, basically telling us exactly who Bukayo Saka is. He's a star.
Brandon, you know what's spooky is that my lucky number is 17.
Well,
it's all coming together now. All right, so then I've got Alvarez and Haaland up front. We talked about them both a lot. I probably talked enough about my team already. I think that we should get into some listener questions about Game Week 1 itself. First, quick plug, please. Well, okay, I don't have to plug it this hard, but please come and join the Patreon and support the podcast. Go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. You can talk strategy, join tons of mini leagues. We got a big thread going now with all the various mini leagues that you can join. Lots of different types of mini leagues. Some may have money, some don't. Brendan, I don't know. I don't get into that kind of stuff. That's not for us to know exactly. Not any that we're running personally. However, I will clarify that. You get an extra podcast each week, and announcing this for the first time right now, Brandon. Tomorrow, our old friend, Mark, aka the FPL General, will be joining us for an exclusive Patreon interview. Very, very excited that he's taking the time to do that with us. He's your old friend from Scotland, Brandon. You guys hung out, had a cup of tea or something like that.
Yeah, Mark bought me a coffee and a crumpet there in Glasgow, and what a lovely guy. But also, if he's more brilliant in playing fantasy than he is a lovely guy, that might be true. I can't wait to talk to Mark the General this week on the Patreon pod.
I think so too. Especially, I want to keep it kind of broad. And I think one thing that he's really good at is managing his inputs. So sort of taking not being kind of like such a slave to Twitter or whatever, Reddit, like you name it, and just sort of like he really pares down his inputs. And I know that he's talked about how that's made him do better in fantasy, honestly, because he just he's not bombarded with as much information. I also wanted to thank some new and returning patrons. Thank you to Christian Miallard, Sam Walters, Craig Mayfield, Svein Skolt, Jorgen Yixnoy, Brandon Panikar, Tom Hamilton, Joe, Alistair, Jonathan Mahler, Harry Wool, Dan Parsons, and Mike Williams. I think a couple of these are renewing. I think sometimes also people like change their credit card. It shows up as a new patron. Okay. So,
all these people have very good finances. A couple of these people, I'm pretty sure they've been supporting the pod for a long time. But anyway, Brandon, they registered as new to us. And most of them are actually, of course, new patrons. So thank you to everyone. It's always a good time at the start of the season to quote unquote renew your vows with the Always Cheating podcast.
Exactly. So that's patreon.com/alwayscheatings where you can do that. Brandon, we have one more shout out here. Do we not?
Oh, yes. We must talk about our good friends at the Fantasy Football Hub. Now, you're listening to the Always Cheating podcast. You're a serious, involved manager. You're looking for ways to win. Josh and I have insight for you, but a huge tool, your one-stop shop, is going to be Fantasy Football Hub, and it is a great moment to join as you're solidifying your plans for the season, because there are so many arrows in the Fantasy Football Hub quiver, from expert team reveals, getting your team rated by artificial intelligence. That is not a joke. That is real AI giving you feedback on your team based on opted data. Fantasy Football Hub, the hub, as we should call it, Josh, has a stream of opted data. That's the real stats from the Premier League. You can go in and use their data tools to find all of that tie-breaking data information that you need as you apply it to the eye test you're giving as you watch these games. Or maybe you're just a full data junkie and a data nerd. But here's the real juice. You want to win your mini league? Win your mini league with fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, or you'll get your money back. Terms and conditions apply. To get 50% off a membership at any tier, there are a few different tiers in which you can join the hub. Just go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always, and you can get 50% off membership at any tier. Again, that's /always. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always.
That's very impressive, Brennan. That was with no notes. That was just you thinking about the things you like about that site. It's very impressive, when you do that kind of off the cuff.
I like a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, you should have done like extemporaneous speaking or something when you were in high school. All right, well, let's take a break. We're going to get back and talk about game week 1.
There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform that you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy, because Indeed does the hard work for you. They show you the candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports, and support the show by saying that you heard it on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, Ben, we're back. Game week 1 kicks off on Friday, Burnley, Man City. As I mentioned before, we may get some leaks, but also a reminder, because this happens every single year, a reminder that the kickoff is 90 minutes before the game, not an hour like it used to be. It's been a few years now, but people still get caught up in that and forget about the 90-minute part of it. So if you're in the U.S., when you go on your lunch break, just make sure you got a team that you're okay with, because you never know. It's honestly, especially if there's a leak, right? If there's a gigantic leak, right? Like if Erling Haaland's tweaked his ankle or something that morning, and he is out, we're going to see lots of chaos and people rearranging their teams, right? So let's see. So just get your team in nice and early. But I think Burnley Man City it's an interesting one, because I feel like at least on our end, we have not focused so much on the promoted teams this year. And I think the Luton Town, is an especially interesting story. And I think they're one, it's like giving me anxiety, because like they have all the stadium stuff that like they have to fix, it's like, and I'm like, is everything going to be okay with Luton Town? Like, is the stadium going to work? Right. It's like they're not going to have the underwater, the pitches may not be, it should be okay for the fall, but then we'll see for the autumn,
just move them to Wembley, a la Spurs. It'll be great to see Luton take over Wembley for a season.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, so I think we got an interesting set, but I think Burnley were excellent last year in the championship, and it'll be interesting to see what they do at home. I'm glad that they get to host this first match, because you could see them really come out and fire. And I feel like I remember I think it was 3 years ago when Brentford hosted Arsenal, and it was their first match. In their case, they've been gone for a really long time, but they came back, and it was just the stadium was lit up. It was a really fun match. I think they won 2-0, sure. And so
the added blockbuster is Vincent Kompany is managing Burnley.
That's
and
right.
A former City player. That's
a great narrative. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a lot of fun. So when you look at the matchups though for this weekend, so we have the Friday game, and then we've got your standard kind of full slate of matches on Saturday. Sunday we got a couple more, and then Monday we close things out with Man United Wolves. So it's 4 full days of Premier League to kick off the season, which feels more than usual. I don't remember there being a Monday usually in game week 1. So we're really getting a lot to kick things off here. Are there teams? Are there matchups, Brandon, that you especially like or dislike this weekend? So like, is there a game where you think one team could really score a lot and or maybe keep a clean sheet, or just like, is there just one match where like, wow, I really think that X team is just going to absolutely annihilate, the other team?
Yeah, I think Brighton is going to throttle Luton playing at home. We saw them at the Red Bull Arena playing Newcastle, just cutting Newcastle's midfield up for fun, and that was not with a fully stacked starting 11. So that just gives me more desire to make sure Matoma is with the squad and playing, because I think there are bountiful points there. João Pedro suddenly like that becomes where do you fall here, Josh? Where maybe we have a as good an understanding as we possibly could that João Pedro is going to start in game week 1. Is this one game week enough to make you want to bring in a player like that who might have a higher ceiling than they would in the coming weeks? It's Wolves, West Ham, Newcastle, Manchester United to follow for Brighton. So you've at least got 2-3 really juicy fixtures for Brighton to start. Or is there too many unknowns for you to make a punt like that?
I guess I'm still struggling with this a little bit. João Pedro was listen, I don't know what the underlying stats said about him, but I found him to be a very underwhelming player when he was at Watford, right? And so the idea that he's suddenly this kind of dominant force, and De Zerbi is like a miracle worker. He's incredible and it seems to bring out the best in everybody. So it wouldn't surprise me, and it's like we're certain he's going to start game week 1, right? I feel like that's my other worry. It's just like, is he definitely 100% a starter? The match where you and I saw Brighton play, it was a pretty strong lineup they put out there, and he wasn't starting that match. And was that just a rest and rotation thing or what? Right. And so I think I guess there's just a little concern that if I bring in João Pedro, I might only get 30 minutes from him or something like that, opening game week.
I mean, the obvious fixtures here are City should score a handful against Burnley. Arsenal should do very well at home hosting Forest. And then Manchester United hosting Wolves. So it's City, Arsenal, United, teams that are pretty obvious in terms of fantasy picks and somewhat obvious in terms of, you know, the 2 or 3 guys that you really want to zero in on. I mean, I do feel like we haven't cracked the midfield on Manchester United standout picks just yet. And then I think Sunday is actually going to be fun watching, but in terms of fantasy, feels like a huge minefield. Brentford, there's news about Mbeumo picking up an injury, but Thomas Frank has come out and said that he looks like he'll be fit for Sunday. Who knows what's going on with Harry Kane? And then it's Chelsea v Liverpool. Liverpool really struggle away from Anfield, you know, in recent memory, compared to their, you know, how high their ceiling is at Anfield. So it's a really unpredictable. And Sunday feels more a pure watch to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's like you want to have a little bit of fantasy juice in those games, or at least one of them. But I agree. I think the huge question about Kane and Spurs, right? I mean, Kane scores a hat trick today. It doesn't really mean anything though, because we've seen this before. We've seen players play and then leave their club the next day, and so it still seems like what's most likely to happen is, I mean, unless Levy is really willing to just part with 80 to 100 million to let Kane go for free next summer, which seems like an incredibly bad business decision, right? I mean,
this idea
Kane
that
one season worth
idea that
much?
Spurs will, God, I can't be this negative. Let's move on. Spurs are the Champions League purse. Like Spurs getting into the top 4 seems like a pretty long. It seems like a long shot to me versus the money they can just get for Kane right now.
It feels like there's going to be a lot of competition for those spots. I tend to agree. It seems like maybe it's better to take a half step back and reinvest a little bit. I mean, with that, like, I don't know. I guess the money changes so much, right? At this point, like they could sell Kane and that affords you like a defensive midfielder or something. Like what even is money anymore, Brandon? I don't know. And I know that you don't know. So I think it's, but so let's say though, Wednesday afternoon, Kane, Bayern Munich, social media, boom, Kane's in the Bayern Munich jersey. It's done. Deal completed. It happened in the, overnight. So if that happens, I really will, just because I just the kind of way that I play, I will have Richarlison. Because I just cannot resist an out of position midfielder playing as a forward like that. He's only 7 million. It's just gonna be very hard for me to resist. It seems most likely that Kane will move, but it'll happen after the season's already begun, because that's how Spurs tend to do these things, right? They're gonna wait until they'll sacrifice a few.
Everyone
weeks
must be punished.
Make a little, yeah, exactly. You sacrifice a few weeks and maybe lose a couple in order to see if they can squeeze more money out of Bayern Munich or whatever. But anyway, so I think that most likely we won't have to really worry about this for a few weeks. But what happens if it goes the other way and Kane comes out and says, you know what, I've had a change of heart and I'm going to sign another 11-year contract with Spurs or whatever. Yeah, his brother. Well, how long was the last? It was like 6 years, right? His brother signed this like 6 year. Yeah. And don't have your brother do your deals, right? That feels like a dangerous game.
I love my brother, but I'm not. Yeah, it's not happening.
Seems dangerous. Mm-hmm. So what happens though if Kane does that? If Kane is committed to being buried under the stadium or whatever, would you consider Kane for your squad? Because I'll tell you right now, I would. I think I would very strongly consider just having Kane from game week 1 if he was definitive.
Oh yeah, and if I can just step off, Mike, and talk directly to all the Salah owners right now, just talking directly to you,
straight
Josh. If you could
just
mute for a moment so I can talk to them, that'd be really terrific. In this situation, you will drop Salah and you will use that money to fund Harry Kane, because in terms of the captaincy chip, this is very important for whether we have Haaland, assuming Haaland stays fit, playing most of the season. You're captaining Haaland virtually every game week, which nullifies to a degree Salah's impact on your fantasy returns because you're not captaining him. Or I guess I should say just like overall value.
Sure.
I think Kane is eminently more captainable in this moment based on what we saw last season than Salah is. So if you're just looking for a backup captaincy option, I'd much rather have Kane than Salah personally. All right, now you can unmute Josh and come back.
Thanks.
What do you think?
Feels good.
What do you think about?
Yeah,
Kane?
I think if Kane, well, it's not going to happen. But if Kane was like, I'm here forever, then yeah, he'd be in my game week 1 squad for sure. I make like a little bit of a promise to myself last season that I would not play the Kane game again. I feel like I kind of derailed my season last year by trying to get cute. And I basically, I was doing quite well on the season. And partially it was because I just relied on Kane just weekend. I just had this kind of unbalanced team where I had Haaland and Kane up front. But Kane is just so consistent, right? He rarely gets you the 20-pointer, but it's just incredible how valuable it is to get the 6 to 9 points every single week, right? It just means your floor is always so high. You never have a truly bad game week when you've got someone that consistent with returns. And so, but unfortunately, it really just seems like inevitable that he's going to move. And I think from a fantasy perspective, it just doesn't feel like it's going to get resolved before Friday, right? So many things would have to happen in the next 4 days for us to feel good about this. And I don't. And so it really feels like it's a first wildcard thing. And maybe that's for the best anyway, because by the time a first wildcard rolls around, we will most likely have had a chance to see Richarlison play in the new system as an out of position forward, and maybe he thrives, and then he's. I mean, listen, he scores a couple goals early on as an out of position 7 million midfielder, and he's going to be like the second most highly owned player in the game after Haaland, right? It's just going to have, especially early on. I feel like these bandwagons go like 0 to 60, so quick. So anyway, so I'm sort of curious. I feel like it's a little bit of a, this question for you too. And I guess I'll start things off here, which is, what squads do I feel like I still need to brush up on over the next few days? Like, ahead of Friday, you and I did a lot of top line thinking with some of our pods, looking at a lot of top 10 midfielders, top 10 defenders, etc. What I haven't done is look at the top 3 players on Wolves. Like, who are the 3 Wolves players that I want? And I think that Spurs are kind of there too, because the Kane situation is still unresolved. I just don't want to think about them at all, right? Until that situation's been taken care of. Like, I have kind of all this extra money right now. Once I decide not to go with Trent and Salah, why is Son not part of my considerations, right? But it's just like, and I think it's because I have a block on that team until the Kane thing is done, because I just don't want to. It's like, it's just too messy for me or something like that, right? And it feels like it's going to be messy for the squad. Like, it's going to be a distraction. Although he scored a hat trick today again, so maybe it's not a huge distraction. I don't know. This stuff is always feels more extreme to the fans than it does to the players, right? Who treat it kind of matter of factly. I would say West Ham are another club that our friend Tom Campbell was like, what do you think about just recommended that people target fixtures against West Ham to start off the season? I don't know if I go that far, but I do. It does feel like they haven't done a ton in the off season to kind of get at least our attention here on the pod. And they do, they lost Declan Rice, unfortunately, too. So I think they could become a story if Areola becomes the starter. I think there's your story, right? I think that you could, in theory, have a double 4 million rotation with Matt Turner and Areola. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, you get Areola letting in 3 goals a match and getting 0 saves. Could be an interesting story.
That's an ex-Fulham player you're talking about, Brandon. That's
what good did it do us? We got relegated that season. So you're old news, man. We got Leno. Move on.
What about you? Do you have any? I mean, I know for you, like before the pod started, you were telling me just these kind of fascinating anecdotes about Luton Town, and I was shocked. Like your level, the granular detail that almost, I mean, to the academy level, kind of blew me away. So I don't know if you want to get into that on this pod, or we can save it for a future one. But I was pretty impressed.
Here's a name I'm learning for the first time right now: Lyle Foster. I'll give you plenty of time to figure out who he is. He plays up front for Burnley.
He is a player who plays in the Premier League. And I did not know even that.
Elijah Adebayo and Carl Morris up front for Luton Town. Okay, so we're knocking those guys out, and then we've got William Osula, and I've heard of this guy, Oliver McBurney up front for Sheffield United.
Ollie.
So there is Burnley, as you noted earlier, had a spectacular cruise through beach vacation through the championship. They played so well, and one of the earliest teams to win automatic promotion in the championship in a long time. So why don't we know anything about them apart from like the Josh Brownhills of the world, and how Wout Weghorst still can't even get a job in that team. So I'm really excited to watch the promoted teams play this weekend and to get a better sense of just their mojo, their vibe, what they're about, whether they're even worth investing in. I mean, the promoted teams are obviously always a great place to look for your bench spots, but I really need to brush up on what they're all about and who their regular featured stars are going to be.
Yeah, it's a shame that Ollie doesn't play at Turf more, by the way, because he could then change his name to Ollie McBurnley. And I feel like then he'd be a club legend, Branley. Ollie McBurnley, like that guy would be a hero.
I feel like that's some sort of intellectual property violation if he were to do that. So he
there. By the way, this Sheffield team, it's crazy. Like everyone's flagged, and they have 8 flags in the squad. They only have 6 midfielders listed, which is about half as many as every other team in the Premier League. Some fun old names though, Brandon Norwood, Sander Burge, remember him? So lots of. I mean, and basically all the forwards we
whenever
know.
I see Sander Burge, I always think of Serge Gainsbourg, the great French sort of crooner.
Did he just pass away? Yeah.
I didn't mean to bring us down.
It's a horror. Yeah.
As far as like non-promoted teams that I'm excited to see play and sort of get a little bit more friendly with is Forest, actually. So Forest they were such a roller coaster last season, and as I play the negative character on this podcast, I always look for the worst in people and in teams in the world. I found myself just like constantly rooting for Forest to fail, and I do think that their manager is a clown. But anyway, they did deliver.
By the way.
Yes.
I was going to say good news. Serge Gainsbourg died 32 years ago, so we're good on that. It's 91. I was thinking of Jane Birkin, his wife, who did die a couple of weeks ago.
Save.
So I had the French on the brain apparently.
All right, now back to my love of Steve Cooper. Forrest did deliver some entertainment, so I have to tip my hat. So are we going to get a continuation of the Forrest entertainment story this season? Or are they going to struggle to be as amped up and deliver any results? They were really good at home, so I feel better like beating up on them because they're away in game week 1. Prove me wrong, Forrest. Make me respect you.
I thought they ended the season on an impressive note last year. They were basically. I feel like they were fairly safe going down the stretch, which was pretty impressive for a team that was really like kind of remade on the fly last season.
Sure.
I don't know. Usually it does not. Yeah. They basically they pulled a Fulham, but they pulled it off, which I think was really impressive.
Yeah. And it's hard to do, obviously, to spend that much money and to make it all click into gear. So. Yeah.
What about Fulham? You and I mean, you're a Fulham supporter. You follow the club very closely. Listen to podcasts about Fulham. You think about Fulham. You have Fulham bed sheets. Like you have the whole thing. What do you think about Fulham going into the season? What are your like? What's a quick elevator pitch on Fulham? Good or bad?
Yeah, there were some very low points this summer for Fulham where it looked like we would have no center backs and Mitrovic was going to Saudi Arabia. Mitro has not left Fulham yet. and he actually got minutes for us on Saturday.
Interesting.
It's unclear what's going on there. Raul Jimenez was starting up front, but there's no way we bought Raul Jimenez to be our starting number 9. Well, I don't think so. But the story is getting better. I mean, the biggest problem, it turns out, this summer was João Pedro dislocating his shoulder, some such. He's going to be out for like another month or so. Okay. Maybe that just stays him like being sold to another club. We'll see. But this guy, Kelvin Bassey, came into the club, and he's now starting at center back alongside Diop or Tosin. Could go either way. He looked fantastic against Hoffenheim on Saturday. He ended up scoring a goal. So this is like, suddenly things are starting to look up. Raul Jimenez also scored in his first start at the Cottage. So these are the good things. The bad things are, I don't think there are bad things. I think Fulham is just going to be solidly lower mid-table, and they're kind of going to be a team of zero consequence to fantasy managers. I mean, Everton, I still wouldn't bet against this Fulham team scoring in virtually every match they play. So this is my one concern about Everton defense going against Fulham. But I do think Fulham will just have a very quiet, mediocre, surviving season.
It's you kind of want, and you know, I think sometimes with these kind of mid-table-ish clubs, they do wait to make their transfers, they're kind of big deadline day transfers, until a little closer to the deadline, because there's sometimes there's a little more value there, right? They're not going to overpay. Some of the top teams like Man United, they're a little more willing maybe to overpay for someone like Mason Mount, because it gets them into their squad sooner. They can use them for the to promote their lucrative off-season friendlies in the United States. I mean, you and I are guilty of giving money to that. Well, actually, we didn't even pay for those. So, but then we had great fun too. But it was, I think that there's, whereas I think with a club like Fulham, there's something to be said for just waiting until the last couple of days to make a move. So, but it does feel like what they're missing, and maybe this is true of a handful of other clubs as well, they're missing that like one big signing, the kind of, I guess it's a little bit like Andreas last year, right? Andreas came in a little bit late, I felt like, to the club. I don't think he was there the whole summer, was he? Before he
No, I don't really recall. But like Fulham have gotten good since their ill-fated promotions that we were kind of hinting at buying value. Fulham have become really good fantasy managers in that they're finding value in the marketplace. They're still not finishing in the top 100K is Tony Khan's problem, but we're on their way. Okay. Well,
that was a nice little potted story about Fulham going into this season. I think that was useful for me anyway. All right. Let's take one last break, Brandon, and then we want to answer some last minute dilemmas, specifically listener questions, the things that people are debating going into as they make their final preparations ahead of game week 1. All right, Ben, we're back. Last minute dilemmas, listener questions, thoughts, comments, and rants. Here we go. Brian says, Brandon Kelly, who is your biggest punt and why?
I like looking at my A squad. I don't think I have any punts, and I think that's kind of the intention of this squad.
Alvarez is a little punt.
I suppose that's true. So why am I punting on Alvarez? We kind of hashed it out at the start of the pod, but I just think at 6.5, there's irresistible value there. It could become a problem, and we'll sort that out when we wild card first. But I don't think there's a lot of risk. It's like low risk, high reward with Alvarez. Yeah. What about you? Do you feel like there's anybody of a particular punt nature in your squad?
Yeah, Chilwell, Shaw, Alvarez. I think there's like a few that I feel like punting in the sense that I'm not like, they're not necessarily in everyone's team. And there's like in some ways I have them based a little bit on hope, faith, feeling like sort of this could work out. Right. Yeah. That sort of that I feel like that's what puts things. It's I would never make a decision based purely on like just a straight up hunch, right? But it's like price combined with fixtures, combined with preseason performance, combined with past performance, right? It's like a series of factors that all sort of go into it a little bit. But I think I think those would be my kind of hunchier picks. I think that I think formation wise, the formation feels like a little bit of a punt for me too. If I stick with this 4-4-2, I haven't seen that too much out there, and so and if I go 4-5-1, that's going to feel very hunchy. Don't think I've ever started the season with a 4-5-1 before, and so that would be pretty wild if I go down that route too. It's kind of appealing.
As far as punts that we haven't really mentioned, now I did bring up Mount. I think Mount is an interesting punt that could just fall flat or be one of the worst punts where you're kind of like week to week questioning why like
getting like an assist here and there.
Mm-hmm. You can never always doing enough for you to not let go, but they're in the long term hurting your team. But then there is a guy who we've not talked about is Darwin Nunez, and Liverpool's attack is kind of a fantasy mess in that there are too many guys and too few positions. Is it Jota? Is it Diaz? Is it Cody Gakpo? But Darwin, if Darwin gets the nod and he gets the minutes, he could be sensational this season. Just in terms like what I was thinking watching the Community Shield and with Kai Havertz, we saw so much of the same thing we saw of him at Chelsea. So if you could argue, well, Havertz going to Arsenal, he's going to be surrounded by better players, or if not better players, he's going to be just in a club in a better moment than he was in the Champions League winning Chelsea. It's so funny to think about. But watching Havertz, I'm like, well, was the problem at Chelsea Havertz the whole time? Again, the dude scored, like he left a lasting mark on the club and scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. But Havertz is, from a fantasy perspective, a volume game. And depending on how long Jesus is out and Havertz plays up top, I think he's just going to get a huge volume of opportunities to score fantasy points.
It's true. It just doesn't seem fun, does it? It does not seem fun. There's nothing to make fantasy fun again about having.
So that's the thing about, like, this is a weird point in the season where the punts don't feel fun because you're kind of predicting the negative outcome. As soon as you get a few data points, 3 or 4 game weeks into the season, you start to have a little bit more belief in these punts and they become more fun at the outset. But if you were to make the right call on a punt right now for game week 1, like those who all had Riyad Mahrez and Jamie Vardy 2015-16 season from game week 1, imagine that feeling. That's fun. So if you can get it right, more power to you. But it's a risky game. It's a risky game.
Well, let's talk about this, the other side of it, the risky part of it, right? I'm going to take the next 2 questions together because I think they're sort of, they appeared back to back in our Patreon question feed, Brandon. So maybe someone was responding to the other person's. But Yuri L says, "Is João Pedro the way to make 3-4-3 work and forget a 6.5 mid? Scored a second penalty of the preseason today while Gross was on the pitch. That is useful to know. Or more straightforward, is João Pedro at 5.5 better than the 6.5 million mids?" And then FPL guy, this is 15 minutes later, Brandon said, "Who are the Netos and Leon Baileys of this preseason? And is João Pedro one of them?" So, wow. So this is the trick, right? It's you want to find the fun, punty players, the kind of the players who, whether they're new signings to the Premier League or players who move for another club or players who just done extraordinarily well in preseason, and get on them before everybody else, right? That is not only fun, but it's also an incredible way to get off to a strong start in fantasy, right? If you can pick, as you were just saying, if you can pick 1 or 2 of those, right? But is there anybody, we talked about Pedro a little bit already, but is there anybody that you feel like is a little bit of a bandwagon right now in the preseason that a lot of people are talking about that you just aren't super high on, overall? Does anybody come to mind?
Oh, it sounds like you're talking exactly like Moussa Diaby, who moved from Bayer Leverkusen to Aston Villa. So he's an attacking mid. and people have high hopes for him. He's priced at 6.5 in the game, I believe. Yeah, 6.5. He's selected by 6.3% of players. So some people believe in Diaby. At 6.5, I don't really see how easy he is to fit in your team. At that point, I'm like, why don't I go for the more known quantity in Fabrizio Eze at Crystal Palace, who I believe is also 6.5. He's had an incredible preseason. And that's just kind of a mark on what do we expect for Crystal Palace this season. And Hodgson is not like a progressive manager. However, Hodgson miraculously brought out the best.
Or brought it. I shouldn't say kept him up. I don't know how realistically they were going to go down, but he did solidify.
Yeah, and I thought they looked actually, and that was when Eze came out of his shell for whatever reason. Vieira didn't want to play him, so it's interesting that Hodgson, known as a defensive manager, somehow empowered the attack at Palace. So Eze, Diaby. And then I'll throw Mount back into I feel like Mount is applicable to a lot of questions here.
Yeah, I think that the one, I guess Darwin is the one that comes to mind to me as the kind of punt that I'm not there with. I just feel like every time, even in the preseason, there's just a lot of Darwin spoils a great chance. Darwin, it's like it's just like there's a kind of person who looks amazing with the underlying stats because they're just always in good positions and have chances and it just doesn't seem like it ever quite clicks. And he just feels like, I used to call Anthony Knockaert Anthony Tryhard, right? Because he was like this guy who just kind of just his brain was working a little too much on the pitch, and I feel a little bit like that might be the case with Darwin Nunez too, where he's just, it feels like he doesn't quite know. It's like and I know they're trying this season. They gave him the number 9 shirt, and it's like you're the forward, you're the number 9. Like
wow, it's okay. Like Finding Forrester. You're the man now, dog.
You're the man now, dog. Yeah, and they're like, this is your, this is your spot. Like they want him to earn this spot. I do think that is the case. I mean, someone like Gakpo is versatile enough. They don't, I don't think it really matters as much with him, right? They know they can trust him in lots of different positions. But I think with Darwin, they want him to be that forward, and I just don't. I actually, I want to be wrong because I like Darwin. Like I like the way he plays, and
I'm not really getting that from what you're saying.
Well, I guess I feel like a little disappointed. As somebody had him for many, many game weeks last year, he falls into the category of, I have to admit, Bruno is kind of in this category too, of player who suddenly turns into a better fantasy asset over the summer. It's like team hasn't changed that much, and suddenly a whatever fantasy asset is a must-own fantasy asset.
Wouldn't it be nice asset?
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if all the things that made them not fun to own last year make them fun to own now? Like they basically just comes down to finishing their chances or whatever. And so I'd say Darwin's up there. I think Eze is. I guess I wouldn't say that he's overvalued, but I just don't know that I really want to have a bunch of Crystal Palace players at the moment. And no disrespect meant to the club at all, but I feel like there are some players like Brighton with Mitoma. It's like, just give me Mitoma at home to Luton Town, and then let's talk. We can talk about moving him over to Eze or something later on. But I just don't. I guess I feel like I don't need to start the season with someone like Eze, and I can kind of move there. He's not too expensive, and he doesn't feel like as much of a must own early on as some of the other players in that bracket.
That idea of needing a player is right, because we are fond of saying that the fantasy season doesn't really start in game week 1. It starts in game week 2. These are all question marks that we'll have, not full answers, but we'll have some idea of after game week 1 once we've seen them play. So punts I feel a little surplus to requirements right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that feeling is inevitable that I considered that player, right? Like Nicholas Jackson might end up being this guy, right? I considered him all off season. Why didn't I go for that move? And it's just, the problem is, if you're being honest with yourself, you probably considered almost virtually every player in the game, or certainly a gigantic pool of players. And some of the ones that you considered are going to go off this weekend. And that's that's just how it goes, right? You can only field 11 players, and that's just something nobody loves it, but that's just the nature of it, right? And so,
just for a moment, I considered Lyle Foster like 5 minutes ago. So that was my last guy left to consider.
Mr. Foster. All right, so Sir Mattman says, let's do 2 more questions here, Brian. So I think we talked about Liverpool enough already. So let's do. Sir Mattman says, do you think the introduction of World Cup style extra time will have any FPL consequences? Fewer clean sheets, more point blocking, 1 point appearances off the bench. Does our bench become more or less important?
I think it's overthinking it. There are so many of these rules and regulations brought in at the start of the season that are enforced for a couple of weeks and then just kind of like disappear, either because refs don't want to enforce them or people behind the scenes complain or say it's not working. But like, what are we really talking about here? I mean, a lot can happen in 5 minutes. Yes, it's true. But so much that we totally change our strategy to fantasy, I can't imagine that that's going to be true.
I mean, we saw today. When was that? When was the Arsenal goal scored? It was
like the 98th minute.
Yeah.
Roughly 99th even.
Yeah. So we did see it today. I think the second part of what you said is the important thing, which is how do we adjust our strategy? Like, even if we acknowledge that it will change things, it's like almost more of like a mental problem, right? It's like, how do I not get annoyed, when this happens? I would say as a fan, I like it. I'm excited about it. I think that players crowding the refs over decisions, VAR reviews that take 3.5 minutes and somehow only a minute of extra time is added on. Like, there are any number of reasons why I feel like we do have less football, like less actual play on the pitch than we did a few seasons ago. And so I like the idea of them correcting that with extra time. Fantasy wise, I don't know. I mean, there are, you could see, it's funny. I was thinking about Alvarez earlier and it was like, well, even if he doesn't start game week 1, if he comes on in the 58th minute or something like that, and then they have 11 minutes of extra time, then I practically going to get a half of football from him, right? And so it's sort of, maybe it makes the kind of risky players a little, like the rotation risk players, a little more appealing, right? Because even if they come off the bench, you'll get like a hearty number of minutes from them, which I don't know. That's one thing. I feel like, I guess my like, I feel like I'm still thinking it through. I don't have like a clear strategic answer to this question yet.
I just don't think it's going to be 8, 10, 12 minutes every match. I don't believe it.
Yeah. But I think if it is, then I think that we should, but because we could, who knows? I mean, who knows what we'll see. If it does turn out to be the case and like 8 minutes becomes like the new minimum, then there probably are some strategic questions that we need to think about, right? There could be an edge that we can hunt here, but I just don't know what it is yet. So
if we try to play 90 minutes, these games are going to go on for, it's like the offside, like lines being drawn all over again. Like, there's no, the closer to perfection you try to get, the farther away you are.
I don't know. I think it's all right. There's still a little wiggle room. I mean, NFL
Just
games
more
take like
yellow
4
cards.
hours.
That's the only answer.
Yeah. NFL games take 4 hours. Premier League games take like an hour and 52 minutes. I if it gets to 100 hour and 58, I think I'm okay with that. All right. Well, anyway, final question comes from Tom D. He says, how much do you think we need to rely on bench players to start the season? It seems to me the only way to fit Salah in, as you've noted already, is to have a dud bench. And is that worth it, given their fixtures, barring the Bournemouth match?
I'm totally good, Tom, with having a bench where I don't expect to get goals, assists, or clean sheets. I'm just going to get minutes. I think that's an okay place to start in game week 1. And then when you play your wild card in the first month or 2, then you can correct based on when we know who the actual best bench players are. Because punts are really going to, like, decisions are really going to matter based on what midfielder you get, who you captain, like all the big assets, I think. I don't think you're going to be cut adrift from your mini league leaders based on who's on your bench at this point in the season. So that's where I'd shift my focus.
I'd say it's nice to have one player who you feel has maybe a little bit of upside in that first bench spot. I think I would only really be worried about having a bench that went like one deep. And I think beyond that, I'm not super concerned about it. I do have, I didn't actually really talk about this, but I did throw Tyrone Mings on the end of my bench, and he could, in theory, be a 4 million defender. I just sort of did that because I was like, well, maybe I don't know, someone gets injured, it just saves me a transfer later on. But I guess that's part of it too. Is you don't want it to be so weak that you have to basically like pre-bank a wild card in for the first few weeks, right? Because you've got all these kind of punts in your starting 11, and then and then no one can come off and play if there's injuries. So having at least one player, maybe two that actually start is useful. This is the problem with going really weak up front, right? Because there's just no 4.5 million forwards, at least not at the moment, that we trust to actually get minutes, right? And that's actually funny that Sheffield are back, because Ryan Brewster was this player a couple of years ago. Remember Ryan Brewster joined Sheffield, and we're like, oh, it's amazing. 4.5 million forward. And then it was just endless. Yeah. 0 goals, endless 1-pointers. It drove all of us. His price kept dropping every week. It was like a nightmare having him in your team. So yeah.
No 4.5 forwards if you can help it. That's a big piece of advice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a recipe for misery. It really is. All right. Well, on that note, Brandon, let's close out the pod. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thanks to everyone from the feedback for all of our preseason content. I think this was our 7th pod that we've done in the preseason. So we've put a lot of stuff, maybe more. We put a lot of stuff out there, and it's been very fun to do. And it's fun because people give us really positive feedback, right? If we were doing this in a vacuum, I don't really know what the point would be, right? So it's fun. It's fun. It's been very fun to do it. I'm excited to. It's also doing the preseason stuff is fun, but it gets a little exhausting, right? Because you're just previewing everything, and then next week we get to actually dig into what happened, right? Start to make decisions. The game week, the season really starts from between game week 1 and game week 2. That's when you really got to engage your brain. So for now, don't worry too much if somebody goes off who could have been on your team in game week 1. That's going to happen to literally every single manager. Everyone who's been tinkering, it's going to happen to them as well. If you want to say thanks, support the pod, you can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. As noted, we have that podcast we're recording with FPL General that should go live late Monday, early Tuesday. Brennan, anything else you wanted to add before we close out this pod?
Good luck to everybody this season. I'm excited for it to start. I've just got a good feeling. I have a good feeling, not necessarily that I'm going to do especially well. This is I'm sort of pre-probleming my fantasy season. I'm just excited for the season. I think it's just going to be a fun, interesting Premier League season plus FPL. So let's all go in with a positive attitude and not get mad when people are arguing about Haaland nonstop on social media. And lastly, I do want to say thank you to our producer patrons who achieve the trophy of our highest level of Patreon support. We love you. Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, our buddy Chris Howell, Bobbas Kuhn, James Holland, Dave Wagner Lodahl, Nick Wright, Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock at FPL Merch, Carrie Swanson. Carrie, thanks for that email. Jefferson Turner, Buffalo Wildlings, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Caleb Robbie, Vulgar Paulson Kruger, Alex Holcomb, James Keatley, The Saint, Bob Fox, Craig Jackson, Shalin F. Kadakia, Terrence O'Donnell, Paul Herzig, Heath Cram, Thomas Tislov, Noah Louise, Travis Grant, Julio Pena, Linus Vennerstrom, Dan Parsons, and James C. I said this is the highest level of Patreon, and at this level, and the Volkswagen level just below, you get, as part of your membership, an Always Cheating 16-ounce, beautiful glass pint beer, whatever. You don't have to put beer in. You can put lemonade in there, water. But all of these are hitting the mail this week. So producers, Volkswagen patrons, do that. If you want to join at that level at any point during the season, you become part of the circle and you get access to the pint glass as well. All right. That's it.
Cool.
Follow us on social media, rate, review, give us 5 stars. Do that if you can't do anything else. Anywhere.
Yeah. Just outside your window, or on one of these sites. Doesn't matter. But go out there, find the pod. Thank you for listening. Share it with your friends. Help us get the word out. And thanks again. Good luck in Game Week 1. Bye.